What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a new video on the channel. This is a story that is going to follow the journey of a boy who should not have existed, a soul which should not have appeared. This is the story about the ghost of the Hidden Leaf Village. So be sure to give the video a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments down below for more of such videos. With that, guys, enjoy. Black clouds hovered just below the shiny stars and the moon, making the night even darker. Though it does not dampen the mood below, women talk, children laugh and run around, and the food stall owners happily serve their customers. This place was full of vitality and peace. On a certain street, a child turned a corner and walked in. The next moment, the bustling street quieted down. Hey, look, it's this boy again. Damn, we should get out of here. Huh, why? Some villagers who had not seen the child asked questions, and at the same time, they could not help taking a step back. The man shook his head, his eyes locked on the little figure, his face showing disgust. Do you know that couple in the village that got brutally murdered by their own son? Huh. Then is this kid? Yes, he is the boy who killed his parents brutally. It is him. It was really bad luck to come out and eat today. Look, he is still wearing mourning clothes. It's been 3 years since then. Does he not know that this is a bad omen? I'd better stay away from him. There was a burst of discussion, and the little boy suddenly turned his head to look at the person who asked the first question. This frightens the guy so much that he fell on his butt while shaking. In the next second, the boy turned his head, ignoring these gazes, and proceeded forward flatly. Annoying. Razel ignored them and continued to walk his way. One could ask, why not just kill them? It's because he can't. It's not that he is weak, but rather because he will fall in trouble. If he doesn't behave well, he will undoubtedly be subdued by Ichiha's police force, and he does not think Hokage will be kind enough to save him. Whether he can kill all of these people is one thing. Another thing is that this contempt and disgust have become a part of his life. Well, it has been ever since he killed his parents with his own hands. This is a world of ninjas. Here is the strongest village among the 5 great ninja villages. Konohagaka no Sato. Razel was born as a mutant in a small settlement to noble parents. Take Shai and Yamanaka suzerain, carrying an endless amount of chakra and being extremely sensitive to it, along with the ability to absorb nearly anything that is made of chakra. Razel's birth was a miracle in itself. If he was born in any other family of any settlement, he would be treated like a treasure. His heaven-defying birth was enough to ignite the envy and respect of others since his birth. However, it was not the case here. At an early age, Razel was exposed to extreme domestic violence due to his father's natural competitive and battle-craved spirit, all because Razel was born with something he wasn't. He could see it since the boy turned a year old. Surpassing his father would be a mere cakewalk for him. The jealous-driven man used both Razel and his mother as an outlet for his anger. He married Yamanaka suzerain to get the power of the Yamanaka clan to his side, and then further used her status to become the clan elder one day. He made her fall in love with him, and convinced her to marry him. But to his bad luck, this stupid woman just gave up on her clan, and came to live with him in his cottage. He tried many things to make her go back, but nothing worked, and when his son was born with so much talent, his anger just exploded. Every day was a test of survival for both him and his mother. His mother, Suzerain, was often severely beaten to the point where her bones would shatter, her skin would tear. Razel himself, starting from the age of 2, personally tends to her wounds and ailments, becoming rather advanced in terms of medical ninjutsu, at an age where most had still been learning the basics of what it meant to be a child in a world full of war and unrest. Despite living a hellish life, he was always smiling though, because he loved seeing her happy face that is always so full of love for him. For her, his grin was so pure, so innocent, and so full of vitality, and perhaps that is the reason his smile was crushed so badly that it never came back. Shortly after Razel had turned 3 years of age, his father's anger and abusive tendencies peaked at an all-time high, without restraint, without mercy. The man was a demon, and nothing more, but a shell possessed by undying hatred and anger from his own faults. The target, at this point in time, had been Razel. His father had enjoyed the thrill that came from seeing his son struggle, and desperately do anything to cling to his life. Although getting abused on a daily basis helped, there was no possible way his small and frail body could hold up to the beatings and exhaustion his father delivered and caused. And soon, Razel's body had given in to the abuse. Unable to walk, move, or fend for himself, his father, blinded by rage, attempted to stomp the boy's skull and end his life. However, before he could succeed, his mother had thrown her body with everything left in her in a successful attempt to push Razel's body out of the way of the attack and take it in his stead. The result, her skull being stomped, fractured, and her head itself splattering in all directions from the amount of force exuded from the man. Watching from a distance, unable to move, unable to react, or cry from fatigue, exhaustion, and dehydration. Razel watched his mother dying that night. Ka-san, he lost his consciousness that night, unable to stay awake, and lay unconscious in his own pool of blood. A mother's love is said to transcend beyond any and all barriers placed in one's path. An unblockable warm embrace that even gods themselves envy, yet admire. Such had been the case for Razel. Razel had lost consciousness only to arrive on a plane that met and linked this world and the next. Sitting there, his dead mother, as he came to his full senses in the plane, he'd feel the warm embrace of her surround him. She was hugging him with such love and gentleness that he refused to let go. For once, he felt safe, loved, and cared for. The pain and abuse, both mental and physical, simply become null. A tear rolled down his eye in limbo, upon it falling into the nothingness beneath that served as their foundation. And just like that, his mother was gone, yet her warm embrace remained constant. When Razel opened his eyes, it was already the morning of the next day. From that day, his persona changed. The psychological effects of such a trial have developed in him a somewhat dulled conscience, and far from the happy innocent boy he typically displays. His personality grew to be condescending and cold-hearted, holding a blank expression of nothingness on his face. The next few days he became dull to everything around him, his emotions were often unreadable, his motives one-tracked, and his eyes, despite their beauty, empty and devoid of sympathy or love. A few days later, he came out covered in blood all over. When the Uchiha police force found him during their patrol, they found the dead and bloody body of a man that was badly mutilated from head to toe, and of a woman who seemed to be dead for a few days. Fugaku-sama, one Uchiha came beside Fugaku, the leader-in-chief of the police force. That boy is trouble. The man and woman's time of death seems to be days ago. Yet, their bodies never left the house. The bodies are even decomposing. Even the blood on his clothes is. Fugaku raised his hand to stop the man from talking. As he walked up to the bloody boy, who killed them? I did, Razel answered without even emotion whatsoever. Contact Hokage-sama. Fugaku ordered. He was taken in by the root a few days later. While he was cared for by the root in order to allow him to grow up and become a strong killer, that was only for a very short time. Once his foundational training was completed, he was left in a cold forest all alone, hunted constantly by the wildlife as if nature itself wants him dead. Not eating for days, the only accessible food source is snow and the dirt below it, with the occasional insect or animal carcass. Coming across another human who has already lost, after so long, as they are now nothing but a mere visage of what they once were, and the tender, juicy excess of food the gods have given him. Free food from his own kin. No one would remain sane after such a trial. But he did. He survived all the way to the end. Danzo called Razel back as soon as he got this news. The boy was his lucky charm. To train the boy into his top puppet, he asked Hokage for the top guy, Tsukumo Hatake. Tsukumo knew that the boy came from Danzo's side, and it couldn't be any good, but he still trained the kid with all he got without any discrimination. Razel did whatever he was told. But this time his training went differently. Tsukumo Hatake blew the source of life into this lifeless puppet. Even though Razel never showed any kind of emotions, he knew that Tsukumo-sensei was rough but a good person. He might be the only person who treats him like a human after his mother. Razel took a slight breath and kicked towards the stake. His kicking speed is not fast, or even slow. This is not because he is tired or physically injured, but when he is practicing, his body is under the full range of gravity that his body can withstand. 1, 2, 3, 40, 50, 51 in a short while. Razel sweats like rain, and his speed of kicking slowed down a lot. In the ankle area, pain, soreness, swelling, and other symptoms gradually formed. However, he did not stop but clenched his teeth. To think the ceiling tag that I found in the garbage bin helped so much, the boy muttered. After this, let's do the meditation and then the chakra control training. He doesn't know how long it took. Razel opened his eyes from the meditation state. Seeing that the sky was completely dark, he was going back to rest. He saw a snake on a tree not far away, quietly approaching a bird's nest. The mother bird, who was opening her mouth and feeding her child the food she had hunted only recently, did not seem to notice the danger. Several of its chicks also did not notice that a dangerous predator was approaching, constantly fighting for the little food in the mother's mouth. Getting closer, the predator couldn't help but spit out his tongue, and was about to deliver a fatal blow at any time. Its target was the mother bird. Razel glanced at the snake without emotions. He raised his hand, took out 2 kunai from his hostler, and waved it sideways. 2 kunai tear through the winds in a quick manner. The snake that was preying and the mother bird who was feeding immediately felt the danger coming. The snake hissed and the mother bird's feathers stood upside down, but when they wanted to see the source of the crisis clearly, their bodies were out of control and smashed crazily to the trunk. Chirp, hissed the snake, and the bird got trapped in between the tree trunk and the kunai without knowing anything. There was no room for struggle. Razel ignored the chirping of the cubs, squatted down and picked up the mother bird, then killed it with a twist of its neck, and then used the same rough method to deal with the snake. As for the few cubs, they did not escape the fate of death either. These things were going to be his dinner today. Grabbing the prey in his hands, Razel got up and walked toward the top of the mountain. Above this forest, there is a natural hot spring. The place is not big. At most it can only accommodate 2 to 3 people at the same time. After a day of training, after taking a bath and once again wearing the worn-out morning dress, Razel walked onto the village streets again. Unlike morning, although many shops in Konoha have closed at night, shops like some pubs have a steady stream of customers. Therefore, even at night, there is no so-called loneliness in this village, and it is still very prosperous. To avoid being pointed, Razel turned directly into the alley after entering the street. Soon after, he entered the not as prosperous street. There are no lights, it's dark and sloppy, and there are cockroaches and mice everywhere around the garbage barrels. Occasionally, someone could hear the barking of wild dogs and wildcats. Razel didn't care and just kept moving forward. Hick as he continues his walk, there was a sudden stray dog barking and crying at some little girl. Razel takes a closer look and found a little girl squatting in the corner shivering, and in front of her, there were a few stray dogs barking mouthfuls. Looking at the little girl who had been scared to cry, what Razel noticed was not her situation, but her eyes. It was unnatural, it was red. Kurenai Yuhi was scared. She originally came out to play with her friend Anko. They are in the same class in the 1st grade of Ninja Academy. Compared with her peers, she has not much time to play, because her father has been urging her to practice chakra and how to become a good ninja. When she was coming out from Anko's house, she deliberately took a less crowded road. However, there were too many people on the street, and she didn't know when, but she entered the alley. When she came back to her senses, she was already surrounded by several wild dogs that were as evil as wolves. She wanted to resist, but found that she was trembling all over, and she couldn't do anything except cry. Looking at the wild dogs getting closer and closer, she could only hold her head with her hands, crying, desperate, praying that someone would show up in time and save her. She looked up to see a young boy in dark, not too far away. The sudden appearance ignited hope in the desperation of Kurenai Yuhi. The little boy was wearing a shabby black mourning robe, probably coming from a funeral. Razel chose to ignore the girl, but to his luck, at this time, several wild dogs also found him. They growled at him, but after a single look from him, the wild dogs lost their courage, and after a few whimpers, they began to back up and then quickly left the scene. They ran away in fear. Razel retracted his gaze, ignoring the wild dogs and the black hair, and continued to walk home. Can you take me home? Seeing that he didn't want to pay attention to her at all, Kurenai Yuhi looked around and summoned the courage to speak. Razel paused, then looked back and continued to walk forward. He did not care about the girl. Please. Razel didn't stop but kept moving. Seeing her chances are better with him, Kurenai got up quickly, kept a certain distance, and carefully followed Razel. Watching the girl following him, Razel grumbled, but eventually decided to turn around and look straight at her red eyes. Where do you live? I live at, she told him her address, and he nodded before changing his directions. She does not know how long it took. Kurenai realized that the surrounding environment became more and more similar to what she remembered. She knew that she was not far from home. After walking for a while, she was able to recognize the way. With a smile on her face, she couldn't help but trot. That's right, this is her home, and the shabby-looking boy brought her back. When she came to the gate of her house, she saw her mom walking sideways in tension. Her father was not there, probably gone to search for her. Kurenai had tears in her eyes. Turning her head and looking, she found that the boy who brought her back had already turned back and was about to leave. Can you tell me your name? Razel ignored her and continued to move forward. Seeing this, she hurriedly ran a few steps in his direction and said loudly, My name is Yuhi Kurenai. You look the same age as me. Do you go to the academy? Why, her voice buried down when she saw him, not stopping even once. She watched the little boy in front of her merge into the night, like a wolf before disappearing. Razel walks into an underground place. Dark, humid, cold, and depressed. This is the impression this entire place gives. Danzo-sama. After arriving at the destination, Razel knelt on one knee and said respectfully, bowing his head. In front of him was a middle-aged man sitting in a chair with a gloomy look. He has a pineapple head with broken hair, wearing a white kimono, with a cross-star scar on his chin. Exuding a cold breath like a poisonous snake, 2 guards were standing behind him. One was fat, and one was thin. You have been training under me for years already, Danzo said with an unquestionable tone, echoing in this empty underground like a grand bell. And I must say that your strength surprised this old man. I have never seen such a Kenjutsu talent in my entire life. Not even Tsukumo's son is as talented. Danzo's eyes suddenly opened and closed again. Even Tsukumo wasn't that talented in Kenjutsu. I have high hopes for you, yes, Danzo-sama. Do not forget that. Yin, take him to the room. Get him a dress to wear. I don't want him to be in morning clothes when he is out. As for his code name, he will be called Ghost. For the time being, he will be Bull's subordinate. Ghost, don't let me down. Danzo directly issued the orders. Razel had no chance to resist. Or rather, he had no intention to resist. Remember, as a member of the Root, rather as a ghost, you have no past or future. You no longer exist in the world of the living. The only proof of your existence in this world is by this title of ghost. Everything about you will be deleted. The cottage that you live in is going to disappear, and the ones that know about your existence will have their memory cleared, including the young girl you talked to yesterday. Yes, Danzo-sama, we will talk to her parents to see if they talked about it to anyone. But other than that, you will only follow my orders. Even Hokage can't mobilize you, Danzo said, letting out his whole killing intent. If Razel refused, he would die on the very spot. Yes, Danzo-sama, very well. Remember, I am very hopeful of you. You are my most talented figure. Danzo's lips curled. Yes, Danzo-sama, let's go. The fatter man on the right of Danzo walked to the dark area of the underground cave and coldly said to Razel, we are going to put a seal on you, so that you remain faithful to Danzo-sama as expected. In that cursed seal room, 2 cursed seals were carved on his body. Of course, Danzo was not concerned about anything. He knew that Razel would not be able to unseal the cursed seal on his body. After all, even Jiraiya could not do it. Unknown to him, Razel is born as a mutant with a defective ability to absorb chakra and elements. Seals do not work on him, nothing works on him. Danzo nodded after seeing Razel coming out with Yen. For the first time in years, Razel was wearing something else entirely. You look good. Yes, Danzo-sama. Since you graduated today, I will give you a day off. Go and enjoy yourself. From tomorrow onward, you will cease to exist in this world, Danzo said as he stood up from his place. Dismiss. Razel didn't have anything to do, so he merely returned to continue his training. That day, Razel was in the blacksmith's shop, looking at the swords while using a transformation technique. So how is it? Do you like it? One young woman asked. She just married the owner of this blacksmith shop. Can I order something custom? Razel asked, touching and caressing the sharp swords. The woman smiled gently. Sure, it will cost more though. Razel nodded. I just need a sharp longsword that could handle a lot of chakra and not break in the process. There is no need, we have just the thing, came the burly young man from inside. Are you done? The woman asked, smiling. The young man blushed at seeing his beautiful wife and nodded his head. Ahem. It's like this, Mr. Customer. I made this sword on the order of Tsunade-sama. She wanted the unbreakable sword for her little brother. Mito-sama herself provided us the seals for that. Pity. The young boy died before I could complete it. And now, no one needs it. I can sell it to you though. Razel nodded. How much will it cost? It's my masterpiece that took almost 7 years to complete. I can give you my word that this sword is unbreakable through any means. Mito-sama made sure of it. Razel didn't care. Seeing the obvious lack of interest of his customer, the young man with muscles coughed to lighten the awkward atmosphere. It will cost around 50,000. Even his newly married wife was surprised. This is a huge load of a sum. If this sword is sold, they could just close this shop and still live their life without any problem. Razel took a deep breath. It was a lot of money that is given to him to buy a lot of things like smoke bombs, kunai, explosive tags, etc. He didn't buy a single thing though. But now, well, here's the money. But I will need the sheath for free. He gave the money bag to the blacksmith. The blacksmith grinned. That is a matter of course. My dear, can you get me a longsword sheath? Make sure it's the best one we got. Yes. The young woman went inside. I will get your sword ready, mister. The blacksmith said excitedly and yelled inside. Honey, bring the sheath to the back of the store. I will need to sharpen the sword. Razel sighed. He does not have a single coin left on him. All he has is now a sword and a pair of kunai. That's it. The next day he was gone, disappeared, and vanished out of existence. His records were destroyed using the Yamanaka root agent. Everyone's memory about him was wiped clean. He disappeared and the world never knew he existed. Your task is to reach the East of Fire and kill the bandits. Remember, ghosts don't leave a trace of their existence. Dog, the leader of the squad, said to Razel, like a piece of ice, exuding rejection. His voice was very cold to the core. Yes. He has no future, no past. He does not even exist in this world. He is an assassin with no emotions. The only thing he can do is to say yes. Razel decisively took over the task, but the bull couldn't help but glance at him in surprise. A look of interest flashed in his eyes. Razel simply walked away at a civilian speed. He has been given a task to kill so soon? Bull asked as soon as Razel was out of reach. He already has his first kill. Dog said, really? Who? His parents. Bull grinned. Interesting. Stepping onto the tree branch, Razel's figure quickly tore the air and rushed towards the destination. His head turned sideways as he saw a kid with white hair rushing somewhere, along with his newly formed team. Razel immediately recognized Hatak Kakashi as the son of Tsukumo-sensei. Tsukumo-sensei was probably the only person in this world he looked up to. That old man was the father figure for him, and probably the only person he wanted to surpass in his entire life. Shaking his head, Razel continued his journey. 3 days later, a carnival feast is being held in a cottage in the east of the Country of Fire. The bandit boss, second and third in command gathered together, and a large group of vicious bandits gathered in the square, cheering and howling. Everyone's face was filled with terrifying grinning smiles. In the center of the bonfire, there are 2 tall and thick iron bars erected in the shape of a gate, with 7 or 8 children hanging on them like apples, with tears of despair, struggling with all their might. Not far from these children, there is a group of adults who are similarly restrained. They have completely become a channel for these bandits to vent their violent emotions. With the screams of women, with the cries of the children, their skin was peeled off in pieces. Ha ha ha. The bandits laughed. The distortion of human nature is vividly reflected here. This is the world of darkness where no light could enter. In this world where human lives are worthless, being weak is the greatest sin of all. Without strength, they could only be slaughtered, and having a beautiful face will only make things harder. The bandit boss looked at all this very happily. This feeling of life and death, controlling the destiny of tens of thousands of people, is so amazing. Little ones, it's a banquet. We need blood after all. The bandit boss gave an order, and all the captured individuals underneath suddenly screamed. In an instant, the ground was full of bloody red color. The blood immediately aroused the fierceness in the hearts of all the bandits. Each of them howled up to the sky like a hungry wolf, with a fierce look in their eyes. Then one after another all the bandits rushed to the target that they fancied, accompanied by the horrified cry of countless women and the sound of tearing clothes. This place was no worse than hell. At that instant, a silver line came out of thin air as the blood and flesh flew. The bandit leader was killed on spot, with a kunai embedded on his forehead. The bandits quiet down, staring at their leader in shock. Assassins! The bandits yelled and tried to get up and do something, but it was already too late. Hidden in the darkness, Razel, placing his hand on the hilt of his sheathed sword, bends his knee slightly, before revitalizing his body with incredibly dense chakra. At that instant, he takes one step forward, while drawing his sword at that exact moment out of the hilt, before returning it into the hilt. The very instant he appears in front of everyone. When he comes to hold, the bandits fell on their own. Their throat was cut open and spilling a huge amount of blood. Every single bandit was killed without even seeing who attacked them. He glanced at the woman, who was brutally ra-piered, and the civilians whose limbs are peeled off. To say it simply, it would be torture for the rest of their lives. In this world, being weak is the greatest sin one could commit. He didn't care about these people and took the knife out of the bandit leader's forehead, before killing the civilians as well, burning the bodies and boiling the blood of these bandits and civilians, turning them into ashes before using the wind jutsu to blow it as well. After all that, he even destroyed the cottage. The cottage, the bandits, the civilians. Nothing existed. This entire incident never happened in the first place. He came and disappeared and no one knew. The Third World Shinobi War came, and he alongside everyone fought in this war for 7 years. During these 7 years, the name of a 12-year boy Kakashi Hatake resounded in every part of the world. He was the super genius who was bound to be an S-rank shinobi. Minato Namikaze became the one-man army, and the first person ever to be named an SS rank threat. Other than these two, there was another name that was roaming at the lips of everyone. The sword-wielding terror itself, Ghost. Not much is known about his physical appearance, due to the fact that clothing covers his whole body. The only thing that is known is his red color eyes. Of course, even that was false. Ghost wears a skeleton mask. He also wears a black cloak that reaches his ankles. The hood of the cloak is usually up, so that people can't see his hair. For pants, he wears plain long black pants, and for a shirt, he wears a long sleeve black shirt. In these 7 years, the 15-year-old Ghost took over and eradicated every ninja he could find. It was around 5 years ago when he was 10, Ghost first met Uzumaki Kushina. He was ordered to get close to the Jinchuriki. He did as he was ordered. He charmed his way into her life and become her student. It was quite easy for some reason. She was a Jinchuriki, capable of sensing the bad in people, and yet, it was so easy. He mastered the element of sword arts under her harsh training. He banished his foes into oblivion. Combined with his innate ability to eat chakra, only the most powerful of their adversaries were spared. Due to his achievements, Ghost was promoted to Jonin, and was put in charge of an assassination squad under Hokage-sama direct orders. He became the youngest to ever become a Jonin at the age of a mere 15. He and his squad were sent on missions to eradicate all that come after Konoha. In terms of pure speed, Ghost's overall velocity is comparable to, if not entirely surpassing, the likes of Raikage's or any other being. In addition, supplementary techniques such as lightning release chakra mode and flying thunder god technique can also be tracked by Ghost's physical and sensory prowess, making winning against him extremely difficult. His speed is such that he has no need to use smoke to cover up his tracks, for even a step allows him to disappear from the sight of conventional opponents. When he was 16 years old, under Kushina-sensei's guidance, Ghost's body flicker technique, Shunshin no Jutsu, has become by far his signature attribute within combat. This year he finally defeated his sensei with great trouble, Kushina smiled and told him he does not need to cover up his face using transformation jutsu anymore. His training is officially completed under her. He was shocked she knew about him the whole time. He asked why did she train him then, but he never got an answer. He was removed from his duty of watching over her. Since Minato and Kakashi never saw his real face, Kushina was able to cover up and deceive them for some reason. It never stood well with him. It was also the year that he heard of Flash's recent achievement, killing thousands within a span of minutes. It was also this very year that Kakashi Hatake became Jonin. In Getsubito's Sharingan, he was taken into Uchiha's custody. The third Hokage personally intervened. Kakashi Hatake was hailed as the youngest Jonin this village ever had, and now he even stole a Sharingan right under the nose of those bastard Uchihas. While the village cheered, Ghost watched the 12-year-old from afar as Kakashi weeps in front of the grave. Minato and Rin were right beside him. The Ghost continues to go on assassination missions. Using his impeccable chakra control, he was able to use several rotations within a single use of body flicker, advancing through an opponent's possible defenses, with such ease that by the time they can potentially react, it is far too late for them to do so. When he becomes 17 years old, he was already an almost impossible opponent to react against, and the very name of Ghost became the reincarnation of death itself. He didn't show mercy. He didn't hesitate. With one sheathed sword in hand, a full hood robe, and a skeleton mask on his face, Konoha's Ghost is an opponent that could do anything, be it infiltration, assassination, or even extracting information. Ghost and his assassination squad had a hand in everything, no matter the job. It was at this time that Kakashi killed his comrade, Rin Nahara. Danzo ordered Ghost to kill Kakashi for his failure. For the first time ever, Ghost refused to follow orders, and even made sure that Kakashi is protected. Why? Because Tsukumo-sensei protected him once. Now it's his turn to protect his son. It was also because of this incident that Danzo figured out that the seal does not work on Ghost, making him a threat. Today, Kyuubi was unleashed on the village. He could have stopped it, but Danzo instead tasked him with the mission of protecting the civilians. Why? Because Kyuubi's eyes gave Danzo hope for the path of power and becoming a Hokage. The eyes of Uchiha, the mighty Sharingan, something he believes only belongs to him. The result of this battle was disastrous. Minato Namikaze died. Kushina-sensei died as well. He was ordered by Danzo to search for Minato in Kushina's house, to search for anything that could be helpful, especially the Uzumaki level seals. When he reached her house, he easily bypassed the seal on the door. Apparently, she registered him as a member of this house. It was there he found her diary, something she was writing for Naruto when he grew up, and for him. He finally found the reason she took him in under her. Apparently, Tsukumo-sensei told her about him, and Tsukumo-sensei was the one who asked her to take him in before he did suicide. Ghost took a deep breath. He always thought that he was the one who approached her, but turns out it was her who approached him. Reading the full diary, he found the note with his name on it. Ashrazel, if you're reading this, then I'm not alive anymore. You have seen the storage seal hidden in the painting, right? If not, what kind of apprentice are you not to notice it? Anyway, back to the topic. The hidden storage seal in the painting contains all of mine and Minato's sealing techniques that I am sure Hokage-sama or Elder Danzo would send you to take. Do me a favor and give it to Naruto as our legacy, will you? I trust you with it. You will also find an old flute in the storage seal. Allegedly, a group of Uzumakas made it using the blood of countless Uzumakas corpses as a last-ditch effort to save themselves in that massacre. But the seal etched on it took their chakra and life in return for eradicating everyone, killing the Uzumaki clan. I tried and studied the treasure flute countless times in the past, and I can say with certainty that it's the true representative of spiritual hunger. The flute will attempt to absorb the world around it in an incredulous yet awe-inspiring way. If you use it with sage energy, the trees will become withered and desolate, the very earth will become faded and lackluster, and the source of water will be depleted. I am giving this treasure to you, remember. The vitality of all living things remains subject to the will of this flute. Do not use it indiscriminately. It must not be played recklessly, and if you do not have an endless amount of chakra to feed it, it shall consume you. Even I was not capable of feeding so much chakra to it. And lastly, burn the house and everything in it. Also, take care of Naruto, alright? He is like your younger brother. On a side note, don't show up on the other side too early, or I'll kick your ass back to the living. Uzumaki Kushina Ghost stared at the note for some time before he did what he was asked to do by her. Securing the storage seal, he burned and destroyed everything in the house. Neither Hokage nor Danzo would get anything from their death. A few months later, the funeral was held, but they could not do so before, because of the critical situation the village was in. 17 years old Ghost attended the funeral along with everyone. Hokage gave a speech in the heavy rain. As he stood at the funeral without his mask, no one recognized him, and he did not even talk to anyone. No one bothered with him. Just like everyone else, he wore mourning clothes. They were shabby and patched here and there, but no one cared. He closed his eyes in sadness and walked out of the crowd. Leaving the funeral, Razel arrived at the orphanage. looking down at the blonde crying his head out. But no one listened, no one cared. He is the monster Kyuubi after all. It's better if he dies of hunger. No one would punish them because of it. For the first time in years, Razel ever showed mercy to someone as he picked the newborn kid and tried to calm him down. This is what he owes to Kushina-sensei. This is what she asked him. When he held the little bundle in his arm, he never felt emotions as intense as it is now. When the matron was out of her room, she saw Naruto sleeping soundly with a milk drop at the corner of his mouth, giving a milk scent. The next morning, Hokage and his men found 2 sleeping Anbu bodies. They were put into powerful genjutsu without any chance to resist. These Anbus were guarding and watching the Kyuubi. Naruto. No evidence or fact came to light. No one heard anything. No one saw anything. Nothing was wrong with Naruto either. They even screened the village for any spy or unknown activity. Nothing came up. Whoever managed to put them into genjutsu just vanished out of existence without doing anything. What was his purpose? None found out. Ghost on the other hand sits in front of the grave for a long time. The same thing happens around the newborn Naruto for the next 3 months. Hokage and others tried various measures to increase the infant's guard. But the mysterious man comes and goes as he pleases. None sense his presence, no one even saw his shadow. Tilde 3 months later tilde he stands in the shadows watching the Hokage tower before he put on the skeleton mask as he vanishes. And this is where a story starts. This is an S-rank and highly confidential mission. You are not to disclose its content to anyone, no matter who. Ghost nodded. Kumogaka has a prisoner. He is highly knowledgeable. Kill him. And don't leave a trace of murder. Fox said Kumo must not start searching for his murderer or for him. Ghost nodded, and the fox keep talking. That means he cannot die or disappear out of nowhere. Kumogaka must never suspect a thing. You are good at it. I will leave it to you. Ghost nodded again. Here's the file of the one you need to eliminate. The time limit is of 2 weeks. Now go. Ghost vanished. 2 days later, he sits in front of the mirror, slowly disfiguring himself, placing scars all over his face, making it irrecognizable. He did the same with his body. He stared at the round pill in his hand and took a poison pill that changed his voice. He groaned because the pill didn't work at all. His poison resistance is extremely high. When he was training under Danzo, he used to take the extremely deadly mixtures of poisons, with no antidote daily. Along with his food, he was the only one in Roots who was fed so much poison and abuse on a daily basis. They said that since he was far more talented than everyone else, that's why his training was far tougher than anyone else. Ghost sighed. Taking raw materials, he made the poison pill of his own, one that could be highly poisonous to everyone else but him. And sure enough, the pill worked despite barely. He sighed in frustration. Even with such a highly lethal poison, he has barely lost his voice after a few minutes. He shaved his head to make himself go completely bald. Ghost was ready. A week later, a rough shinobi tried to kill a Kumo shinobi jail, but failed, and was captured instead. 3 weeks ago, he completed his mission. He killed the prisoner, and now all that's left was escaping. Ag, he screamed. The knife dug into the side of his abdomen. Ghost's wrist pulled hard at the restraints, keeping him pinned to the table. Shut up, little shit. We're only having fun, right? At least this isn't punishment. You do deserve some though. Ghost shivered involuntarily. The prisoner grinned. You still not gonna talk who you are? Good. I like men like you. It gives me time to assess my art. The man smirked and pulled back the bloody knife. Throwing the bloody knife on the table next to Ghost, the Kumo prisoner went to wash the blood from his hands. Ghost panted. Thank God it's over. The man walked back over to Ghost with an evil smile on his lips. Now or never. He kicked the man in his face, causing him to fall to the floor and yelp in pain. The man stood back up, red in the face, and glared daggers with his eyes, screaming, "You're gonna pay for that one." The man grabbed the knife and stuck it to the handle in Ghost's thigh. Ghost screamed out in pain, tears forming in the corners of his eyes. Just a little longer, he thought. The man twisted the knife, causing Ghost to scream even more. Before the man even knew what had happened, Ghost painfully wrapped his legs around the man's waist and forcefully brought him forward. The man fell on top of Ghost, giving him the chance to bite the man's shoulder. The man let out a yelp as blood flowed freely from his shoulder. Ghost then moved his head to the man's pocket on his chest and bit down on a pair of keys hanging loosely from it. Kneeing the man in the crotch, he fell to his knees, grabbing at the pained area. He kicked the man in the face, knocking him out cold. Only one shot at this, he thought as he brought his feet towards his head to grab the keys. When he got hold of them, he quickly brought his feet to the restraints and slowly and carefully began to unlock the first cuff. After what felt like an eternity passed, Ghost moved his freed hand and unlocked the second cuff. He rubbed his sore wrists and checked the rest of his body for injuries. His thigh was bleeding heavily, and now that the adrenaline was gone, the pain tripled. Next was his abdomen. It was a sharp cut going from his right hip to his navel. Not very deep, but still hurt like a hell. Ghost grunted as he made his way from the table and over to the door in the room. Finally, he would escape from this hell. Finally, he could go back. On Konoha main gates, a limp body was on the ground whose breathing was irregularly fast. and was wearing ragged cloth, blood coming from a wound somewhere on his head, sticking out all over the place. "Who is it?" Suddenly came the voice of Kakashi, who was returning from some mission. He checked his pulse. His heart rate is abnormally fast. "We need to get him to a doctor." Kakashi yelled at the village guard. "I will inform Hokage-sama of an unknown body that is discovered." The village guard cleared his head. He picked the unknown person's body up in his arms and ran out to the hospital, while Kakashi rushed in to inform Lord Hokage. When they got him to the doctors, they immediately started working on him, doing everything they could to keep the unknown body covered in scars, breathing. While Hokage talked with another doctor, he could have sworn the man's heart stopped twice, and then a third time, not starting back up again for a couple of minutes. For days to come, Ghost never let anyone touch him. When the doctor comes to give him checkups, he has to barely touch him, or he will freak out. He doesn't talk either, and he isn't taking care of himself. He doesn't eat as much, and he eats a lot slower, savoring the taste. When was the last time he had a bath? Sure, he wasn't the most hygienic person, but now he fears water. He has a hard time drinking it too. He was alone. He was broken. He wants a hug. No one was there. He wants someone to say something to soothe him. No one did. He cried. No one cares. After a few more days, Hokage came in. He was alone with no one. Not even his shadow Ambus were with him. "I never knew someone as good as you suffer from PTSD. Ghost didn't speak. "Take some rest and return back to duty in a week," he said, and turned to go out. "I will return to my duties from tomorrow," Ghost said. Hokage turns back to stare at the young man. "You sure?" He nodded. When the doctor came in that night, the hospital bed was empty with only a stack of money on it. That night, he once again sits in front of the mirror, using the creation rebirth jutsu. The scars on his face and body disappeared. His hair grew back instantly. His poison damage was healed as well. Creation rebirth forcefully stimulates the body's cells. Whenever the body's tissues are damaged or an organ is destroyed, the injury would instantly heal regardless of the severity. The pinnacle of medical ninjutsu and the ultimate regeneration technique made by the Princess Tsunade herself. Though creation rebirth does not repair the old cells, instead, it hastens the creation of new ones through division. Because a body's cells can only split a certain number of times, anyone who uses this technique shortens their natural lifespan whenever this technique is used. The mission was an astounding success. Kumo never guessed what hit them. The prisoner that could have given them an incredible amount of information was dead. They never even suspect that he was assassinated, so they will not investigate him. As expected by the infiltration and assassination squad leader, he truly could do anything. No one was concerned about the man himself as they prepare the next mission for him. Ghost sits on the cliff at the Valley of the End, watching the waterfall. His hands were trembling, his eyes were unable to focus, and after a while, he jumped in the river. Someone like him is not allowed to have PTSD. Today is just like every day. He would either die or return back alive and ready to perform. "Please have mercy," a woman begged in tears while holding his legs. I will do anything. Whatever you say. You already killed my husband. Please at least let my kid live. He is just an infant." There was blood as the woman and the newborn were dead. Killed by Ghost without mercy. Ringing, the alarm clock goes off and he jolts and woke up from the nightmare. He huffed as he gets up and goes to the bathroom to take the antidepressant pills. He looks himself in the mirror. Huff huff, the dreams, they are getting worse these days. Hokage TOWER ... here is in Saratobi. Let out a sigh while straightening his Hokage hat. The recent talk of alliance went downhill sooner than he expected. Suddenly, there was a knock on his door and he blinked. Then he turned to see the clock, and it was already midnight. Who would visit him in the middle of the night? "Come in," he called, and the door opened to reveal it was his secretary. However, Hiruzen immediately sensed something was wrong with her, and his eyes sharpened as he stared with steel eyes at the woman. The secretary seemed to be unfazed before she dropped to the ground like a lifeless doll, and behind her emerged a shadow. The Hokage also noticed that this man smelled bad. It was a mix of pepper, garlic, and it clearly gave quite a bad impression on his nose, and it was only thanks to his hardened battle experience in the war that he was able to hold himself. "She is not dead, but in Jinjutsu," the unknown person said plainly with a changed voice. His presence also aroused the presence of Ambus guarding the Hokage. "Who are you?" the Ambu demanded sternly as he and his comrades brought out their kunai and weapons. But in response, all they heard was silence. "Everyone, form a protective barrier around Hokage-sama. Sleep," the shadow said as soon as he came to light. The Ambus fell asleep without any resistance. "I must admit, your Jinjutsu is getting better and better." Hokage smiled. Ghost kneeled in front of Hokage. "Hokage-sama," he called. "I know time is critical, so we will go straight to the point. Have you heard of Kurigaka's situation?" the old Hokage asked bluntly. The shadow nodded silently. "I need you to go and find out why is their village in lockdown for no reason at all." Hiruzen explained while looking at the masked figure. Please forgive me for asking this, but what's the point? The ghost said in a low voice, and besides, any Anbu can do this simple of a job. The old man sighed as he leaned back in his chair. Jiraiya sent a piece of information this morning. Our name Akatsuki. We don't know what it means. It might be a mission code name or some organization or even something else. However, according to Jiraiya, somehow the Kairubi attack on our village is related to this Akatsuki. Hiruzen paused, then continued. That being said, Kurigaka's lockdown is not sitting well with me. If someone related to Akatsuki has the capability to attack us, then they have the capability to attack Kiri as well. Although it's just a wild guess of mine, I have a hunch that we will have more information from there. And there is none who could do this better than you. Hiruzen finished. Yes, Hokage-sama, you are going in blind on this one, and we don't know how much reach this Akatsuki has. That's why you won't inform anyone of your mission details. Not a single soul. Hokage ordered, stage the play for your disappearance. Other than you, me, and Jiraiya, others can only know that you are traveling to Kurigaka. Understood, Hokage-sama. Hokage nods his head. Remove your mask. I wish to see your face. The shadow did not hesitate and slowly put a hand on his mask, revealing his face. Hokage shook his head. I know this is not your real face, but the makeup underneath the mask of face says a lot. So I ask you to remove it completely. Show me who you really are, he demanded. My face is whatever you imagine, Hokage-sama. Ghost blurred and disappeared, and everyone started waking up. Hiruzen stood up as if nothing had happened as the amber started to wake up one after another, only to see Hokage glaring angrily. Hokage growled. That assassin, he managed to run away. He clenched his fists with fury. The Ambu were quick to take action, and they were ready to move in for the kill, until Hokage ordered them to stand down. What will you guys even do? Where are you gonna find him in this whole village? Did you guys even see the assassin's face? Hokage asked. The Ambu lowered their head and gave an apology. Just forget about that and focus on doing your job better. After a long moment of silence, Ambu could only mutter in dismay. Yes, Hokage-sama, the group said as they all blurred into the shadows, leaving behind Hokage, who sighed with exasperation at how much more difficult his job had suddenly gotten. Since he gets to know Ghost is unlike other Ambu Black Ops. He does not exist, his existence is fake. Only his shadow exists along with a single name, Ghost. The only ones capable of calling him are few, and even they have to follow the rule of hiding him, so that no one knows he is there. The old Hokage sighed and sit on his chair as he bring out a small diary called Bingo Book. This is a book that every ninja keeps, that lists records of rueful missing nins, and are considered to be on the hit list. Anyone mentioned in this little red book is known as the best of the best and can be killed at any time by anyone. The old Hokage flipped through the pages and stopped when he found his information. A name, unknown, codename, ghost or weapon, sword/flute, A skills, unknown/demonic sensing ability, A bloodline, unknown, A rank, cess plus, A bounty, 1 billion, every great nation, 5 million, every minor nation, A records. Defeated every Kage of the 5 great nations, including the 3rd Raikage and 4th Hokage, rumored to have completed more than 100 plus S-rank missions last year, and destroyed the entire Wagaka's entire army all alone during the invasion of Konoha. Recognized all throughout the world to be untouchable. A location, unknown, Konoha. Air appearance, unknown. The bounty on this man's head was huge enough to make anyone shiver in greed, and the fact that he remains unknown makes it even more dangerous. The old man sighed and closed the book. A week later, Konoha's training ground. Boom, the thick tree could not withstand the sword attack, and was separated from the main trunk, and hit the ground with a boom. Tweet, his fifth sword intent, filled the air, making Razel's skin tingle. But Razel, as if fallen into a situation of epiphany, he kept waving his brand new katana, in a new form, wearing new makeup, and having a new face. Razel practiced for a long time. Yo, what's that? A young boy walked in with gulls in both of his hands. I lost my sword a few days ago. The thief was a boy wearing shabby clothes. You are that thief, right? Razel, who was drenched in sweat, turned over. But the arrogant boy did not care, his eyes only contained greed. Hey boy, give my sword back, and I will let you go, or I will call the authorities and tell them how you stole my sword. Razel turned back around, and just continued to swing the sword. Oi, I am talking to you, shabby boy. He still didn't stop. The arrogant boy was angered as he ran toward Razel to punch him. Either way, the boy seemed to be weak, and he is a mighty chunin. He was confident in his abilities only to feel an uncontrollable force stopping him from moving even a bit. It was Razel's killing intent, making the arrogant boy hesitate from moving forward. Razel stretched out his hand to grab the arrogant boy's neck and lifted him up. He glanced at the fiffle girls. Sleep, there was a flash of light, and both the girls beside the arrogant boy suddenly fell onto the ground, unconscious. You put me down, do you know who I am? I am telling you, I am the elder Hamura's grandson. Even though he was caught up and out of breath, the arrogant young man was was still confident. Yes, I know the arrogant boy was overjoyed when he heard it. He thought that the boy in front of him would be intimidated and put him down. However, what Razel said next directly took the soul out of his body. That's why you are here. In this situation, the arrogant boy gulped. Razel simply stared into his eyes with a stoic face. I have been training here for the last 7 days. Just for you to come here, as if possessed by a demon. His eyes were radiating a huge killing intent, which was extremely frightening. The arrogant young man couldn't help but shudder. I am telling you, crack. With the crisp sound of broken bones, the arrogant boy's arm was broken immediately. The arrogant young man suddenly screamed like a pig. His face was full of pain, and his eyes couldn't help but tremble in fear. There was another sound of broken bones, and another scream of the arrogant young man resounded everywhere. Arg! He tried to struggle in Razel's grasp. He kicked his legs furiously, but it was to no avail. Do you know, I bought this sword just to seduce you, Razel whispered softly in the ear of the arrogant young man. The young man shuddered. He wanted to yell for help, but could not. He looked at the arrogant boy whose face was turning blue from the lack of oxygen, sensing Hokage and elders nearby. And in hearing range, Razel immediately yelled, "You dare to be so aggressive because of your grandpa? You idiot, everyone is expendable. Especially useless trashers like you." Razel stretched out his hand and tapped on the arrogant boy's chest and injected some chakra. The arrogant young man directly screamed as the green veins on his forehead bulged out. But because he was hanging in the air being choked by Razel, he could only twist his body in pain. But what is surprising is that he did not pass out due to severe pain. Stop it. Just when he was about to do it again, a furious voice suddenly came over. Sure enough, the moment Hokage Council arrived, "Old man," Hamura yelled with a commanding tone. Razel immediately let the arrogant boy drop to the ground and kneeled in front of Hokage and the Elder Council. Hokage-sama, Danzo-sama, elders. Kahara Utatane, another elder with them, immediately ran to help the young one. As the former head of the medical hospital, her medical skills were naturally not bad. With her treating the arrogant boy's wounds, they were not worried that anything serious would happen. But crack! Elder Kaharu put some green chakra on her hand and tried to heal the broken bones. But for some reason or another, the arrogant boy suddenly uttered a scream like a pig, which was extremely ear-piercing. Ugly, what is going on? Kaharu, Hamura asked, feeling panicked. There is a foreign chakra in his body. If this is not treated in time, the boy will go into a coma. Boy, do you know what you have done? Is it possible that you want to bear the charge of killing your companions? Hamura Midokado shouted angrily. Companions? Does he know the meaning of this word? He tried to steal the sword that I bought using every ounce of money that I saved for years, just because he felt like it. Elder, congratulations, your son has produced trash. Hearing it, Elder Hamura's face was red with anger. Danzo closed his eyes and said calmly, Razel, you are crossing your limits. Tilda Konoha Hospital Saratobi. This fellow, who is it? I have never seen such a wild boy, the elder asked, feeling very angry. He is just an unremarkable chunin, Danzo explained very calmly. That's why you probably don't remember him, no matter who it is. We absolutely can't let him stay in the village anymore, otherwise, no one knows who his next target will be. This guy is a psychopath, and everything depends on his mood. Things like today must not happen again. For Konoha's sake, for people's sake, he must be controlled. This what you said makes sense, but I feel a bit wrong to just make a decision like this. Hokage said Hamura wasn't the only one. Kahara Utatane joined him. But what surprised everyone was that Danzo kept quiet in all of this. Sensing their greatest backup Danzo was quiet in all of this, Hamura was hesitant for a second. Hiruzen, I know you are benevolent to children. You must do it when it is time to do it. Not now, if it is inconvenient for you. Then let me give him punishment. I will give him a proper punishment. I guess that's a good suggestion. Well, but you must not go too far and cause his backlash again. That kid is not a person you wish to harm. The elder groaned for a while before agreeing and being reminded at the same time. How could the third Hokage not understand the hatred? Hamura has practically lost his mind. The old elder may not necessarily listen to him. I hope you won't make me regret my decision, Hamura, the third Hokage said as Hamura nodded and left. Looking at the departing figures of elders, the third Hokage sighed as he puffed his smoke pipe. Tell our people to start mixing poison. The elder's grandson must not leave this hospital room for some time now. High Razel does not know what trick Hokage used, but apparently, as the punishment decided by Elder Hamura, he was given the scroll. Even Danzo agreed to it. Sneak into the bloody mist to investigate their sudden lockdown situation. Razel read the scroll on the road. Razel blurred from tree to tree, rushing towards the Kiri, leaving behind a permanent shadow clone inside the village. Cool breezes flew in from the north, gracing the fair-skinned man's face as the boat traveled north. His rower, darker than he in skin hue, continued using his oars to propel the small rowboat towards their destination, the land of water country. His rowboat docks, and the rower asked, Are you sure you wish to be dropped off here? Yes. He stepped out onto the small island's snow. I'll take it from here. Thank you. Just doing what I was paid for. The rower takes back his boat. A wandering sickly teenager was begging on the streets all day long. He picked food from the trash cans and slept on the floor, taking whatever he could find to cover himself up in this cold weather. He did it for 3 months with black and heavy eyes from the lack of sleep. Just as he was about to do today's begging, there was a young woman that came to him. She looks the same age as him, dressed in a blue dress that was open till it was above her thighs. The brown hair on her forehead intertwined into a loving shape. After this woman appeared, the beggars on the street forgot to pretend to be pitiful, and the businessmen forgot to care about the price. Heck, anyone would agree that this young woman is hot and sexy. Everyone's eyes gathered on the young woman's body, and their greedy, lustful eyes scanned the woman's body, burning it into their minds. The woman is no one else but the heir to one of the most prestigious families in Kurigaka, Terumi Mei. She stood directly in front of the teenage beggar. Boy, come with me. There will be a lot of delicious food with me, so you don't have to wander on the streets and get hungry again. Terumi Mei's words were simple and clear. No thanks. Why? Don't you want to go with the pretty lady? Mei asked, a little stunned. This is her first time getting rejected for anything, especially by a man. I might not be as noble and educated as you are, but I know people don't help anyone for no reason. She smirked and bent down to match the teenager's eyes. The people around him swallowed again. Their breathing began to become rapid, and their eyes never looked away. Mei smirked. I am a noble from Kurigaka. So what do you think I would gain from helping a beggar like you? I don't know. Some people do it for status. Some just do it to satisfy their ego, or to look cool in front of others. Some just feel pity for guys like us. She smiled. What do you think my reason is? I can't tell, the beggar said as he looked to the side. He is pretty sure if it hadn't been for her strength, these people would have long since turned into demons and rushed forward to ravish her. And, judging from her expressions, it's obvious she learned how to ignore it a long time ago. Come with me. I've been watching you for quite some time now. As for my intentions, well, you will find out soon enough, Mei said as she grabbed the boy's shoulder. The boy remained silent for a few minutes, but finally, he spoke. Will you give me food? The beggar asked. Mei laughed. You can have more than just that. I'm taking you to a real feast. Come on, come with me. The beggar bit his lips, and after hesitating for a little too long, he nodded. Let's go then. I will buy you some clothes, and then make you take the bath. Maybe you will turn into a handsome guy. Terumi Mei took the beggar and walked off. The people in the street stared at her back with envy, admiration, and lustful eyes, as the people were all filled with jealousy. That beggar is of course a nightmare, who will bring chaos to Kurigaka. This boy, the one being escorted by this lovely woman, is none other than the most lethal assassin known to mankind, Ghost of Konoha. Under the leadership of Terumi Mei, Razel easily entered the hidden village of Kurigaka without any interrogation. Judging from the respectful attitude of the ninja at the door, Terumi Mei's status seems to be quite high. Unlike Konoha, Hidden Mist Village is shrouded in cold mist all year round, and the visibility is no more than 10 meters. People here cannot see the sun even if they want to. The architectural style of Mist is not much different from Konoha. However, compared with Konoha's one big land, Mist Village is basically divided into various small islands with smooth drainage and spiral buildings. Razel carefully looked at all the buildings along the way, keeping them in his mind as much as possible. Here is where he will live for a year. Along the way, the Mist Ninja kept saying hello to Mei, as she kept nodding with a smile. Oi mate, who is this man? Asked the newly arrived man. I sense a huge chakra in him. Seeing that person's face, Razel immediately recognized him. One of the 7 swordsmen of Mist, the current owner of the famous sword Sanahada, and a man who barely managed to escape from getting killed by Ghost through sheer luck. Fuguki Tsukazan of the Mist. There is also the shark-faced ninja behind him. Razel did not know who it is. But that chakra though, for the first time in his life, he was seeing someone who is not a Jinchuruki, yet rival his own chakra density. There was so much chakra inside that shark-faced ninja's body, that it can even change the terrain from a simple jutsu. Senpai. He is a beggar I brought from the streets. I have had my eyes on him for some time. He is clean. I think he is like us. Fuguki looked at the beggar Razel before showing a hint of sadness. I wonder how many we lose every day. Razel was genuinely confused. Terumi Mei sighed. I understand you, senpai, but we gotta do what we can. Protecting one ours is already the best we can do at this point. Fuguki nodded. Well, senpai, if there is nothing wrong, then I will take my leave first. As soon as Mei and Razel was out of sight, he yelled, okay, she is gone, you perverts. What else are you looking at? Go and do your work. Remember, What we are doing is highly illegal. If Mizukichi found that we are secretly harboring and protecting the bloodline users, we all will be dead meat. Do not slack. Yes, sir, came the unified voice. The shut-faced Kisum grinned. Something is wrong in this village. What did they mean by protecting one of their own? He looked at Mei's back. Mei is probably the only person who is helping him without any condition. He can tell that because he is very sensitive to chakra and emotion. But he is Ghost, the leader of the assassination and infiltration squad. If one day they were to fight, he would not hesitate to kill her, no matter how good she is to him. And he is sure that she will do the same. They are enemies, and this is nothing but an act. After going round and round, the two finally arrived at the location where the bloodline users secretly live. He looked at the innocent villagers. There is surely something off in here. All of them had huge chakra inside of them. Probably all of them are bloodline users as well. What's the point of hiding them? What is going on in this locked nation? You will live here from now on. When they got home, Mei quickly get into the kitchen to cook something, but soon realized that he has fallen asleep. She smiled and covered him with a quilt. He opened his eyes to look at her back, which was walking away. He closed his eyes again. He stands in a dark place, a place filled with dead bodies. It was a chaotic scene of the people he killed. His body was covered in blood. He jolted and woke up from the nightmare. As he looked outside to see, it was even darker than the original. It's so hard to tell in these situations. The first thing to catch his attention was the smell of food. He looked ahead to see Mei was preparing dinner in her apron. Pots and pans were clinking non-stop. Go and wash, and then come and eat. Yes, Razel responded softly and shook his head. Concentrate. He went to the bathroom and washed thoroughly. Hurry up and have dinner. Why are you bathing for so long? Mei yelled at him. Coming. Drying himself up, he wore his clothes on and made his way to the dining room. Mei sighed as she looked at him. Do you boys take so much time to bath? It was my first time bathing in clear water, Razel said as Mei looked at him with pity in her eyes. How long have you been sleeping on the streets? Mei asked with sad eyes. I don't know, but I don't remember living anywhere other than the streets since I was born. Mei closed her eyes before opening them again. It's all right. This is your home now. She reached out her hand to touch his cheek before pushing on the chair. Razel blushed and looked down. Thank you for your kindness. Mei gave him a smile before sitting back in her seat. 30 minutes later. After the meal was over, Razel cleaned up the table, then washed the dishes and sorted them out. All right, we need to get you a house and check your background for precaution. He looked at her without a care. She laughed. It's nothing serious. We have to make sure that you are no spy from Mizukichi or other nations. This is our territory. It's easier to trap the spies and kill them. Leaving that aside, we also have to figure out why you have such a huge amount of chakra in your body. I am very much assured that you are like us. Like us. She smiled and nodded. That's right. Like us, the bloodline users. She ruffled his hair. That is why I took you in. What if I am not one of you guys? It would not matter. You can live here all the same. Cheer up. Who knows, maybe you are some secret prince or something. Alright, enough of this. We have an important task to complete. She grinned. It's time to go shopping and buy clothes. She stood up and dragged him. Abu, wait. He hardly balanced himself between all this dragging. It's time to go shopping. Who are they? Razel pointed at the thugs-looking people. Their job is to collect protection fees from each shop. Protection fee? Razel asked, feeling confused. Mei shrugged. It's not like we are getting any help from anywhere, and every day we are increasing in number. We need money. It's like collecting taxes. It's just we have to do it like this. Oh, that's the case. Razel nodded in response. What do you think of this dress? You should look good in it. Mei suddenly took a dress and said, I know. What about this one? Actually, nope. This one is good. Haha. Terumi-sama, is it another one you are showing around? She nodded. I brought him just today. Hey, this one is good. The shopkeeper chuckled. Terumi-sama, you have good eyes. This batch is this year's latest fashion. They are very popular, and this is the last one. How much? 3,500. Terumi-sama. What? Terumi-sama, this is made of pure natural handmade fabric, soft, comfortable and durable, cut by the experts in the field. This alone will cause this piece of clothing to be several times more expensive than normal clothes. Look, is this price satisfactory? The boss rubbed his hands nervously. 1,500. Terumi-sama, this 3,000, is it okay? 1,500. It's made by hand. It is absolutely comfortable to wear. There will be no allergic reactions. If you miss it, it will definitely be your loss. 1,500. This, come on. Let's go to the next one. Terumi-sama, okay, let's do 2,500. Alright, you go try it. She looked at Razel and said sternly. He could only nod dumbfounded. Is this the innate power of woman? The shopkeeper readily agreed to lower the price by 1,000. Just like that. After a while, he changed his clothes and came out. Can I change back? It's uncomfortable, Razel muttered. Nonsense, you look amazing. Let's go. It's just the starting what? This hidden place where the bloodline users live wasn't very prosperous, but it was still good enough to make a shopping district. The various big and small shops were a feast to the eyes. Mei Terumi for some reason picked and bought whatever she liked. Razel had become her goods storage rack as he walked behind her. In a short while, Razel's body had numerous bags that were hung on him, including some bags for himself. For nearly 2 hours they shopped, and he was extremely exhausted. But Mei Terumi was still full of energy. It must be in a girl's nature. He really couldn't stand it any longer. Can we have a break? Just look at me. There aren't any more places to put any more things. Mei turned her head back and saw a pitiful storage rack that hung numerous shopping bags, which was Razel of course. He was covered by the numerous items she had bought. Mei said in astonishment, I have bought so much. I'm nearly done anyway. Let's head back. Yay! Finally released, he heaved a sigh of relief. When they reached home, she let him go inside while she stood at the door. Terumi-sama, a dark shadow suddenly appeared out of thin air. Have you checked his background? I am not sure, what do you mean? She asked. His information is too vague. We have not been able to find anything wrong about him. But it's hard to confirm things about him as well. It is like a black hole of information. She nodded her head. During our shopping today, I noticed something too. He carries himself quite skillfully. And he also has quite a good level of stamina. He is obviously trained. There is something else as well. He was asking too many questions. Unnecessary questions, she finished. You think he is a spy? The shadow asked. She shook her head. It's a possibility, but still no certainty. What should we do then? I will keep him with me for a few days, get the people who identify for him. I am sure you will find something about him from them. Hi, she nodded and was about to go inside. Terumi-sama, I have something else to report. The shadow looked at her. Speak, she said without looking back. Mizukage-sama has sent a battalion to someplace. It was too big of a movement, so we investigated, and the position they are going is where our Sama is our. They found our? Yes. I am afraid given the time I've obtained this information, they should have enough time to capture our Sama. If they have not killed him already, they won't kill Al. He is very important for both of our sides. Can we intercept their battalion? Unfortunately, I have no idea. We cannot contact a spy during such times, lest we make Mizukage-sama doubt his identity. The shadow finished. I can't even say what is going on there. All right. Prepare the squad. I'll lead. She said. Terumi-sama, if you suddenly disappear from your post, then Mizukage-sama will get suspicious about you. Al is a resource we cannot afford to lose. We have to save him. She took a deep breath. Someone like him is a must-to-have on our side. But it's also true we can't risk losing a Mizukage's trust because of that. The shadow sighed. What should we do then? Get the squad ready. Tell them to wear camouflage clothes and wear masks. Remember, no witnesses. Even if that means killing the civilians of the witness must remain alive, even if that means killing. Quote, I understand, Terumi-sama, the shadow said, and vanished into thin air, leaving only the breeze. Mei went back inside with a smile. None of them noticed a shadow standing behind the window, observing them silently. Watching Mei coming back inside, he vanished into thin air and re-entered his room without anyone noticing him. Shit, Al thought to himself as he looked at the 2 black dots in the distance. He never imagined he would meet such strong shinobis hunting him down when he was just preparing for bed. And he was definitely not expecting an ambush. I was lucky to make it out alive. But now where? He wondered as his surroundings slowly started to take form. He looked around. There were buildings all around, though not too big nor too small. There was nothing in particular he could spot that could be considered a great hiding place. After looking for some time, Al saw something, a small hole hidden in the floor that he had completely missed, making him wonder how he could have walked right past it without even noticing. There is no way I'm going to die here, he thought, not while I still have some hope. What the? He heard a voice from behind as he realized the reinforcement has come. Blood flows through her enemies as Mei dodged a sword and kicked her adversary in the chest. Her opponent staggered back as she immediately stabbed at his heart. She quickly withdrew her blade and turned around to see a water-style water dragon bullet jutsu charging straight at her. The dragon opened its jaw and break apart to unleash a small-scaled tsunami. Many were caught by surprise as Mei and a few along with her gasped and drowned in the wave. But luckily for them, the range and the power of the jutsu was not enough to take down someone like her. She opened her mouth to take a deep breath and glared at her enemies. The wave, the water, responded to her chakra as she made hand signs. The wisps of water turned into a storm of bullets that were shot directly toward their hearts. Many were knocked on their ass by the bullets, but a few of them managed to dodge the shots and continue fighting. Mei's glare turned into those of a mad woman as she jumped and charged straight at her opponents. Razel watched everything from within the shadows of the roof, wondering if he should kill Mei right now, or leave her as it is waiting for a more favorable opportunity to win Mizukage's favor. He quickly made up his mind as his figure vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Mei appeared behind a man and used the blade in her hand to slice another Kiri shinobi's neck. Blood poured from the wound. The man fell down to the ground and writhed in pain. Hidden Mist Village. As the name implies, it's a village hidden in the mist all year round, cold and isolated from the rest of the world. Clouds gathered around the village, leaving the village to be left in perpetual rain as it should have been. A pair of eyes could just about be made out through the curtains of water. But nothing more than that. They were only that. Eyes. Nothing more than an empty shadow against the grey skies. The eyes scanned the horizon, taking in every detail with a sharpness that was unmatched. The wet yet still crowded street, the people huddled around a few fires in the plaza, the sounds of their conversation blending in with the constant pounding rain. Even the smells of the village, despite being damp and moldy, blended into the smell that has always prevailed over everything in this village. The smell of death itself. It was impossible to see anything past the veil of mist that shrouded everything, and left them unable to see the source of the eyes, before even they vanish into the fog. But there was no mistaking the identity of the presence in the village, or where it had come from. Ghost hailing from Konohagaka. A civilian yelled as he ran out of the door. His clothing appeared to be charred, and he seems injured. He pleaded to the citizens, "Terrorist. There's a terrorist within that building. He's killing everyone in sight. Please, please help us." Elsewhere, their leader Mizukichi stands on the very edge of his residence, the tallest tower in the whole of Kurigaka. Just a misstep meant a fall of death as the stone below was slippery with rainwater. But he was not alone. 3 of his masked companions kneeled behind him in silence. They were there to execute his command. Something is amiss. Mizukichi slowly cracked his eyes open. "Furo, Kensui, heed my orders." The whisk-masked man removed that mask, revealing the face underneath, which was covered in a thick white and black paint, with only the eye sockets being left bare. He was the so-called monster of Kurigaka, Kensui of Earth Release. Take a unit of 10 men. Eliminate the terrorist on sight. The command was clear and full of authority. The assassins bowed and quietly seeped through the element of the tower. "Your call is our desire." Their dark forms disappear into the mist. The civilian was startled when he saw 10 or so ninjas appear out of thin air. "Yes, sir, please help. I will bring you to safety. But I need to know what happened." What happened was, the civilian began to almost sob in despair. "A man, maybe men, came into the complex. They murdered my neighbors with a kunai, and proceeded to rampage throughout the civilian, unable to complete his sentence, began to weep, and ran away at the speed of a normal civilian. The guards were annoyed. "Stop right there." But the civilian did not stop. "Just get him back," Furo ordered as he sighed. "Useless civilians. Can't even finish a story." The guard grit his teeth in anger as he began to follow the command. However, once they were isolated enough, he noticed something strange. The civilian, he couldn't catch up to him no matter how hard he tried. He ran for all the time he could remember, but never found an end. "Shit, Dash," he gasped. He panicked and tried to run away. "I have to inform the others, Dash." The man couldn't finish his sentence before his head flew clean off his shoulders. The guard's body twitched and slumped over his unconscious form. Blood spilled out and just trailed down the road in this heavy rain. "Kensui, Lord will be angry," Furo said as he looked at the fallen guard's body. "Along with the rest, I know. I can see it as well." Kensui scolded. Sorry, it's just a habit." Kensui looked at the horizon. "Whoever it is, don't let them live. It's gonna be interesting." Furo seeped through the surface and disappeared, his trace gone. Kensui just chuckled, licking off the blood from his fingertips. "Who are you, another bloodline user?" He continued to grin as he moved forward, his speed rapidly increasing, and then his infamous flickering came to display. "Follow me, yes." The guards yelled. Kensui stopped in the middle of the road, the water drenching him, his perky white hair clinging to his forehead and neck. "I can feel you tilde," he sang out with a light voice, with a hint of insanity in his voice. "IKNOW tilde," a sarcastic voice sang out. The voice came out of nowhere. Kensui and his men had no chance. Furo, on the other side of the village, felt the shift of presence. It seems many had fallen and Kensui had been on a rampage. He knew that Kensui was smart enough to not do anything stupid and rush into death. Furo moved forth towards the destination. The person will be killed by him. He reached the surface before he completely emerged from it. Furo looked up to see Ghost, whose face was still shadowed beneath the skeletal mask, and the head hidden by the hoodie of his attire. Ghost of Konoha. "Why are you here?" Furo didn't wait for the answer anymore as he disappeared. With a quick maneuver, Furo made an attempt to pierce Ghost from behind, directly aiming at the heart. Hidden from the eyes of 2, Kensui, who had been able to luckily escape from the ghost, goes insane. The thirst for more blood rose in Kensui, his angry chuckle intimidating. Kensui immediately flashed from his spot, a feat that made him stand out from the rest. He knew that a sensor as good as Furo would have already sensed him as soon as Ghost appeared. He also bid his time, knowing it wouldn't be long before their pair would prey on the hunted. Furo's attack reached Ghost. The assassin glanced up to see the blade of steel in Furo's hand was already stabbing his heart. No one was there, but even if they were, they could not have believed what they saw. Even Furo was stunned. The terror known as Ghost hailing from Konoha was killed just like that. The earth turned red. Furo screamed in agony. He was injured as Ghost calmly wiped Furo's blood off the blade, without any intention to finish him off. Furo could not fathom what happened. He was sure he saw Ghost die, a mirage. Furo figured out almost immediately how could he move so fast. In an instant, Furo knew he was not a match for the man in front of him. If he runs away, he will be stabbed in the back. His considerable battle experience made a tactic almost immediately, a completely useless tactic. He knew that avoiding the attack would be futile. For someone with such skills and speed, it would be a piece of cake to catch him. Instead, Furo opted to instantly blow a kunai out of its sheath and immediately initiate the attack. In doing so, Furo planned everything ahead. He would proceed to continue his own assault, never giving Ghost any chance, and then use the water-style jutsu to finish it off. The kunai of Furo was akin to a spear, focused on penetration, hoping to stab or at least force his opponent to block the attack. He enhances kunai's sharpness through his own chakra flow. The masked assassin, Ghost, did not care as he channeled a little bit of his chakra to just the tip and edge of his sword and swing the blade, while simultaneously releasing all of the chakra at once. A shockwave emanates from the blade and completely obliterates the kunai in an instant while ragdolling Furo backward. The poor man did not even have the time to react, and was hit by Ghost's blade with incredible force. Ghost twirled his sword without emotion or fear, just an animalistic fighting style, with no regard for the enemy. Furo, now on the ground, looked up with bloodied eyes and saw a shadow before him with a sword piercing his gut. A horrible sensation washed over Furo's body. The pain was like a punch of adrenaline coursing through him. With all his might, he tried to lift himself from the ground, but to no avail, as his whole body was completely drained and numb. Gritting his teeth, he held the sword in his gut with all his strength, pushing it out and letting out a scream. His body shuddered in agony, and he felt like he is going to die at that very moment. He could feel the blood gushing down from his belly into his lap, and he thought he had bled to death. But the pain still lingers. "Who are you?" Ghost answered. Intriguing, but his hand let out a blast of air. The chakra that he had concealed in it burst out, forcing Ghost to slide a few feet back. Furo coughed blood once again, as he licked his lips with a hint of excitement and slowly raised his head with a painful grin. "Is the world-famous Ghost this week?" Furo concealed his trace, becoming one with the element as he submerged into the ground again. Underneath, Furo placed both of his hands between the surface and the layer between, channeling his earthly chakra into it, which changed the battleground they were at. The metallic spiked up under the feet of Ghost. It was partially due to the earthly chakra, but with the use of air, Furo did what should be impossible. He did a metal release jutsu without needing the bloodline for it. In the meanwhile, Furo was submerging on the other side, forming a seal to create two earth clones, both with the same armor and a similar signature of chakra. The three submerged, meaning to attack Ghost from three sides, left, right, and underneath, and the fourth. That was the monster that came right in time, Kensui of Kiri. He used the rain to distinguish his sentence signature, his newfound katana pointing downwards, waiting for an opportunity. Truly, these two are an unfair combination. Ghost, knowing full well of what is happening around him, his sensory capabilities is nothing to sneeze at, but he still did not care. After jumping high into the air, Ghost was about to land on the ground softly, but using his impeccable chakra control, he sent chakra pulse through the ground, shaking the earth, making Furo stumble. As he bore down at Furo underground, with all his titanic strength, Kensui grinned and jumped from the shadows while saving Furo. "You are not Ghost. Who are you?" His eyes glittering, Kensui engulfed his katana's hilt with his elemental chakra amplified with the natural waters that fell out of the sky. It didn't just stop at the hilt, the chakra continued from the blade to the tip. Before the water absorbed the particles of the blade turned invisible. "You know," quote Kensui wicked grin twisted as the katana had become part of the droplets that absorbed his chakra. "I would really like to know your identity." "Why are you asking?" "Just take off his mask," Furo said with a grin. Ghost had no choice but to lean back as far as possible to avoid being disfigured or getting murdered by the invisible blade that came out of nowhere. But that was not enough. The blade cut the mask off his face, revealing a face that shocked both Furo and Kensui. "It's you!" Kensui and Furo yelled at almost the same time. It was the face of Mei Terumi's personal guard. It's a well-known fact that this guy only follows orders from Mei Terumi and no one else. Once his identity was discovered, the assassin blurred and disappeared. Kensui was about to follow but was stopped by Furo. Mei Terumi tried to assassinate Mizuki-sama. "I never liked that bitch anyway. I will follow him. You go tell Mizuki-sama." Kensui looked at Furo and nodded. "Be careful. This guy is stronger than you are." Furo nodded. "Don't worry. I will deal with it," he said with an eerie smile and disappeared, following the assassin with a hint of insanity. When Furo reached where he sensed the assassin's chakra, he came out of the ground, only to see a masked man in a black robe all over him, standing with a black sheathed sword in his hand. "You are still wearing a mask." Furo narrowed his eyes. Why? Your face is already unveiled before us. The masks have many purposes, one of them being anonymity. The masked man replied and used his thumb to pop the sword out of the sheath. The clinking sound was obvious, and then back in with a snap. He turned back and walked off. He did what he wanted to do here. Furo, on the other hand, was having his head flying off his body. He was not prepared for this. He had never seen anything like this, let alone react. He could not even fathom what just happened, as his body gave off blood like a fountain before it fell off too. The next few days were nothing less than hell for Mai Terumi. Her personal shadow was hunted to be questioned by Mizuki's forces. She was under heavy suspicion of wanting to kill Mizuki. All her property and finance records were under custody and were being read heavily. She grit her teeth and used every method to try and find her shadow guard. His job was only to find people's backgrounds. Why in the world did he try and attempt to assassinate Mizuki in these pressing times is unknown to her. Strangely enough, her personal guard, her shadow that she uses to find people's backgrounds, disappeared in thin air. This raised the suspicion even higher. Unknown PLACE the man everyone was searching for, sits in a dark room, his eyes closed, his face beaten and shallow with blood covering half his body. Chains were binding him and suppressing his chakra. A huge splash of water left him drawing more air with an open mouth. His eyes tiredly yet angrily glare at the figure familiar in front of him. Who are you? He asked Razel, who went to the side to get the torture tools. I am a shadow without a name or face. Sometimes I am Haru, sometimes I am Takeshai, sometimes Kei, sometimes Kansas. Currently, people call me Razel. You can call me whatever you like, he said as he stabbed the Kiri shinobi's thighs. Bastard. Or slut, pig, dog, I accept every name. GHHHHH. The Kiri shinobi grit his teeth and breathed heavily, trying to fight off the pain. He laughed tiredly in despair. You think you are great, right? Let me tell you, we already saw your face. Sooner or later, they will find you, and then you will be in my position. At that time I will be watching from above, he said, taking deep painful breaths. Razel sighed as he sat down on the floor just in front of his prisoner. He opened the cloth with lots of needles. Yay? Till then, he said with a cold look and stabbed the Kiri shinobi's chest with all needles. You are mine. The Kiri shinobi screamed in pain. Say, if I stab your eyes with an infected bottle, will it hurt more? The Kiri shinobi's body shivered as he screamed. No. Razel let out a loud laugh. But I want to know, with a single gesture and a sharp pain. The Kiri shinobi's left eye popped out. The Kiri shinobi screamed louder, and his whole body shivered. His face contorted as blood poured out of the open socket. Razel chuckled. It's fine. You have two eyes, you know. With another swift motion, and Kiri shinobi's right eye popped out. The Kiri shinobi was screaming out in pain. His whole body shook, his face contorted with agony and hatred as tears flowed. Sigh. Why are there only two eyes in the human body? Maybe we move on to your nails. Then what do you think? Razel laughed as he stabs the poisonous needles into the prisoner's fingernails, without even waiting for his reply, cracking some of the nails in the process, while making them bloody. Damn you. We will find you. No, you can't. You see, everything on me is a lie, from this very skin to my eyebrows to the color of my eyes, even my body smell, and my hair are not in their real form. This isn't my real voice either. He finished putting the needles in place and stared at the man. The name and face that I was born with do not exist anymore either. Even if you search the entire world for me, you won't find a single thing. Leaving aside the fact that your people can't trace me through my chakra either. I am quite skilled in chakra pulse, and it's very easy for me to fabricate the amount of my chakra and how it feels. We have Alzheimer. The prisoner grunted in heavy pain, as Razel just kept stabbing his fingernails. The smart guy with Byakugan, of course. Let's just say if he can see anything that I don't want him to see, I would be amazed beyond words. The man shook with hatred. He has no other word. Razel stood up. If you are done asking useless things, let's start with the interrogation. If you just cooperate with me, I will make sure you disappear without any further pain or suffering. If you don't, I don't need to complete my sentence, do I? The man spit blood from his mouth at Razel, who merely tilted his head to dodge it. Do your worst. FUC *O. Razel nodded and hammered the iron rusty needle into the man's crotch, making a bloody hole, making the Kiri shinobi squeal like a pig. You thought I could not do any worse than what I have already done, didn't you? Well then, think again, Razel said and hammered the iron needle even harder. The Kiri shinobi screamed louder than ever before. Speak. What is going on in this locked country? Mai Terumi had a time coping with the situation. How could she have the mind of backtracking Razel's background in these conditions? Let alone a background check, she could not even live here anymore. Because of her, they will find the bloodline users here. Their side is not powerful enough to handle Mizuki and his force. They need time. They still need to amass power under shadows away from the prying eyes of Mizukage and his loyal followers. So she left and took Rizal with her. Even if she cannot do as she pleased now, she still did not forget that Rizal is a man under suspicion and a potential threat. It's better to keep him away from innocent villagers. After all, you keep your enemies closer than your friends. She thought of killing Rizal at first, but shook her head. If she does that, then there will be no difference between Mizukage and her. She even thought of telling Fuguki-senpai or Kisum, but they were not found for days. Apparently, Kisum and Fuguki are working on a secret mission under the orders of Mizukage. Rizal followed her at civilian speed, surprised by the outcome. He estimated that she would try to kill him before trying to run away, not take him with her. He had this all planned. She would take him somewhere isolated and try to kill him, but it would backfire. He would somehow survive by sheer luck, and then Mizukage personally will find them while he was desperately running away from her. And then he would give away this entire place location where bloodline users secretly live as a bargaining chip for his life. That way he would get rid of Mei Terumi, who was constantly suspicious of him, and get on Mizukage's side instead. But it all changed when Mei Terumi decided to take him instead of trying to kill him. And it was here, in this place, their fate intervened into something that would haunt them forever for the rest of their miserable life. And that's the end of this episode. The series will continue in the next part. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share, and comment down below. This really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching. We'll be seeing you in the next part. Check out my other anime videos.